Morning, this is V, and I recently revisited a story called Graceling by Kristin Cashore. This is actually the second time I'm reading this book. It's set in a world where people are sometimes born with unusual abilities that are referred to as graces. So these are kind of like extreme talents. They can be something relatively ordinary, like someone can be graced with dancing, which basically means that they'll be a very, very, very good dancer, or they can be graced with being able to hold their breath for an absurdly long amount of time, or it can be something more unusual, like someone can be graced with mind reading and other abilities like that. So in this world, a lot of times Gracelings tend to be considered like the property of the king, so they usually go to the court when their abilities start, or when people notice that they are graced, and then if their abilities are useful, they're kept on in the service of the crown. You can tell when someone is a Graceling because their eyes will become two different colors, like it usually settles somewhere in childhood. The main character, Katsa, has a grace that unfortunately makes her extremely good at killing people. So her uncle, who's the king of a place called the Midlands, uses her as a way of enforcing his will on his subjects. So for example, when a lord does something he doesn't like, or doesn't cough up enough taxes or something, she's the one that he sends in order to punish them. Needless to say, this isn't work that she enjoys, and as a way of kind of balancing these things that she feels like she has to do, she's also started an organization called the Council, whose mission it is to try to do some good in the world. Like, it's her way of trying to make something better out of her abilities. And this story begins with one of these missions where she sneaks into the castle of a different king in order to rescue an old man who seems to have been imprisoned for no reason. On her way out, she runs into another Graceling and makes the decision to let him live, which she's not sure if she should have done. But this entire strange incident sparks a series of events that ends with her getting caught up in the dark secrets of this other country that not a lot of people know a great deal about. So I guess you could say this is partly a romance story and partly a story about Katsa finding a way to free herself from her uncle's control, and also redefining her abilities and learning more about her grace, which might not actually be quite what she thought it was. I think the story, something I particularly liked was actually the way they handled the romance line. I liked the way the relationship between her and Prince Po from this other country develops. It takes its time, it goes through the process of them becoming friends and then eventually something more. It builds the relationship in a way that I really appreciated. And I actually really liked Katsa's character in general. She's someone who's really resourceful and, well, someone who can survive. There isn't really anything I think that stands out as something I don't like about this story. The bad guy is a little disturbing, but I guess that often is true for fantasy. It's also a more quiet kind of story. It doesn't have a super large number of characters, and the plot line and everything is pretty straightforward.